court's stay decisions can, at times, come across utterly irrational. We cannot expect the public to have faith in our judicial system if, without clear explanation, we consistently green-light harmful acts that do real damage.
She's critical of the country, and she's critical of her own court. And she's critical of the fact that the Supreme Court's been a backstop to fix some of these lower court decisions.
And when she says harmful acts, what she's talking about is the Supreme Court allowing the President of the United States to exercise his executive authority. You know, I got to tell you, Brian, the speech that she gave here, it took some serious chutzpah. She's only been on the court for a couple of years. She's the most junior member of the court, and yet she went to Yale and gave a speech where she says, basically, my colleagues are getting it all wrong, and I can be the catalyst for change. And you have to remember, Ketanji Brown Jackson has basically been a rubber stamp for the lower courts that are just blocking every single thing that the Trump administration is trying to do. So again, two different speeches, but I really encourage everyone to go watch Clarence Thomas's speech. It's a national treasure.
Devotion has given me liberty or give me death. That devotion has driven the great achievements and heroism of Americans in the 250 years since. Think of the frontiersmen who settled the West. Think of the families who built their little towns on the prairies. Think of the women who raised their children to love God and country and sent them off to fight wars. It is a devotion expressed in the final sentence of the Declaration, the willingness to do anything for our principles that has throughout American history been most indispensable. It is that devotion that we are missing today and that we must find in our hearts if this nation is to endure.
Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas putting a spotlight on America's founding principles in a powerful speech where he warned progressivism is threatening those values while honoring the Declaration of Independence ahead of America's 250th birthday. Let's bring in Fox News legal editor Carrie Urban. Carrie, we're going to get to Ketanji Brown Jackson in a moment, but first, your take on Clarence Thomas, knowing how he grew up.
It was the best speech I have ever heard in my life on the Declaration of Independence. And Brian, to your point, the messenger made it that much more powerful. Clarence Thomas was born into deep poverty. He didn't even have a bed to sleep in until he was 7 years old, I believe. He slept in a chair, and his mom and his brother shared the bed. They had issues with running water and toilets. I mean, this is like some of the deepest poverty that you can imagine. And yet here he is as a Supreme Court justice, championing this document, our founding documents, despite the evils and abuses that occurred, especially in the beginning of the country with slavery and then, of course, with segregation, and saying, look, people may have gotten it wrong, but the principles in the Declaration were correct. And he focused on the intro, which is the iconic phrases of, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed with rights by our Creator. And his point was this: God gives us rights, not government. And it's that principle in the Declaration of Independence that actually changed the course of our country later on with ending slavery and segregation, because it was those principles that supported that, and people understood that.
And don't forget,
scratch paper. That was the phrase that was heard around the world when Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, in true fashion, true to form, disrespected and dismissed the foundational logic of this country. Scratch paper. She wasn't just criticizing a legal brief or a particular decision in a particular case that she didn't agree with. She was attempting to literally deconstruct the very pillars of the Constitution that we all hold dear, the Constitution that this country was founded on. To call one of her colleagues' opinion or one of their decisions scratch paper is to literally devalue the reasoning and understanding of one of the most powerful minds in this country. People who are literally assigned with the task of not only holding us true to the Constitution, but of interpreting the Constitution in a way that keeps us all safe. If you really think about it, the Supreme Court is as close to the founding fathers as we can really get. And what she did literally eroded the trust. Well, it was an attempt to devalue or erode the trust that the American people bestow in our Supreme Court. But look who she was talking to. That really should sum up everything for you when you hear what people like Ketanji Brown Jackson have to say. We have Clarence Thomas here, and he's going against her with everything he has. A man who literally survived Jim Crow. He outworked every detractor and stood firm through a confirmation process that would have most likely broken anyone else. There's a biting irony here that nobody wants to acknowledge. On one side, you have a man who literally earned his seat on the Supreme Court through decades of intellectual rigor and unwavering adherence to principle. On the other hand, you have a female justice whose appointment was preceded by a public vow by Joe Biden that he would literally make his next Supreme Court appointment a DEI hire. Joe Biden literally said, my next Supreme Court appointment is going to be a black woman. Automatically eliminating people who may have been better options. This is more than just a courtroom spat between two judges. It's literally a mirror of our society. It reflects the growing gender divide, especially the gender divide that exists within the black community, where the quiet, traditional strength of men is increasingly met with the loud, disruptive, obnoxious, ignorant progressivism of women. Justice Jackson is simply the latest in a line. And I told you guys this a million times. What do I always tell you? What do I always tell you guys? Black women are the fall guy for progressivism. Black females are the unwitting accomplice, the stooge of radical progressivism. I'm being real with you. Look at Fonnie Willis. Look at Nina Turner. Look at Cori Bush. Who's our latest victim? Jasmine Crockett. Look at Stacey Abrams. Look at Kamala Harris. Just go down the line. Go down the line. Everywhere you find a ridiculous, radicalized, progressive policy, you find a black woman at the front of the pack blurting out ignorance while everyone's wondering, what the hell is this chick talking about? What is woman? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. And I don't know why black women keep allowing themselves to be used in this way. All it results in at the end of the day is them losing their job and then becoming a pariah in the political sector of our country. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, she's going to be the next one. I wouldn't be surprised if this woman one day gets disbarred. I'm going to be real with you. I don't believe she's going to make it to the end of her life as a Supreme Court justice. I just don't. Justice Jackson is simply the latest victim, really. She's a black female figure who seems eager to spew a bunch of nonsense progressive rhetoric. Her legacy will forever be altered from the things that she says and does today. She's literally going to sacrifice communal stability. She's literally willing to give up the freedoms that we enjoy in this country for a temporary round of applause or, yeah, girl, that part from a bunch of people who really don't control anything. The progressive wing of the Supreme Court is, in a way, the perfect reflection of America today. A loud institutional minority. I think there's probably about 2 justices in the Supreme Court who one could really call progressive. The rest of the justices are either conservative or justices who are like, we agree with some of the things that the progressives say and we support them on that. But the vast majority of the things that the progressives believe, we don't support it. That's exactly the way this reflects in our society. You have the far left radicals who are like, men should be allowed to play in women's sports. And then you have a bunch of people in the middle who are like, well, I understand that you don't want trans people to be the victims of violence, but at the same time, I don't believe trans men, well, women who are really men dressed as women, should be allowed in bathrooms with young girls and females. And what these people do is they literally weaponize your humanity against you. Well, if you believe trans women should be protected, then that means you have to agree with putting trans women in prisons with regular women, real women, right? And the minute you say, I have to think about that. I don't think a man should be allowed in trans women are women. You're a bigot. You're a racist. You're this and that. This is what they do. They weaponize this against you. They literally have figured out a way to weaponize your compassion against you. And it's so crazy because someone in the comments is like, Ketanji Brown's husband is white and Clarence Thomas's wife is white. They are literally a reflection of America. 2 people who ultimately would be rejected by the black community for having white spouses, but are in very powerful positions within the country, having a fundamental disagreement, but really only one side makes sense. Only Clarence Thomas's side actually makes sense. Ketanji Brown is like a rubber stamp. Just think of the policy, as wild as it may be, she's going to agree with it if it's in line with progressivism. It doesn't matter what it is. Hey, do you think kids that are 3 years old should be allowed to decide if they want a sex change operation? Ketanji Brown going to say yes. She's not even going to think about it. It has become an unconscious act for her to come down on the side of anything progressive. And that's why when she writes the dissent and she tries to explain why she disagrees with her counterparts, it doesn't really make any sense because she's not 100% Brooklyn Stevens. She is literally a government version of Tam. She's already decided in her mind a long time ago that whatever crazy radical leftist idea or policy comes across her desk, she's going to agree with it. So when she writes her dissent, they don't make a lot of sense because it's not based on logic or rational thinking. It's based on loyalty to a particular ideology, right? That's the problem here. She's not thinking. She's just acting. She's just agreeing. That's it. Like someone who's constantly nodding their head yes, and you haven't even asked them a damn question. But just like most Americans, right? What do Americans do? They nod along with the slogans while literally recoiling at the actual policies. Somebody might say, oh, Trump's a taco. Trump always backs out. Yeah, I agree. I hate Trump. Yeah, now let's go give all the kids sex changes. Whoa, 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 whoa. How did this go from me hating Trump to me agreeing that men should be allowed to go in women's bathrooms? See? But that's how they drag you along. They get you washed up in the wave of emotion. Understand that. It really reminds me of a scripture in the Bible. And this scripture is really, I've used it before. It's very common. And it just talks about people, it says, woe to those calling evil good and those calling good evil, right? See, people like Ketanji Brown Jackson, Brandon Johnson, and you could, Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries, people like that, they will literally call something evil good if they believe it furthers their narrative. They don't care about what's right or wrong. all they care about is the furtherance of their narrative. When she called her colleagues' opinions and dissents in a majority decisions, when she called those scratch paper, that energy was literally the energy that she wishes to push into the future. But when you treat the principles that this nation was founded on like they're worthless, don't be surprised when the wind finally blows the whole house down. True progress isn't really something that's made by tearing things down. Understand that. It's really made when you have the character to stand up for the things that are already established and build on top of those things. When you go to a basketball practice, right? Every time you go to the practice, does the coach tear down the entire play style of the team? Or does he build on that playing style, right? Does he say, you know what, we were doing the triangle offense last week, but F that, we about to play the run and gun. We about to do the Showtime Lakers offense this week. No. He might incorporate certain aspects of different offenses in there, but he's not going to just scrap the foundation of the team's playing style. That's exactly what people like Ketanji Brown Jackson want to do. They want to literally tear down everything that the United States was built on and then try to rebuild it in whatever image or likeness that they decide. The problem is their plan is poorly thought through. Their plan is literally so damn, it's not something that they spend a lot of time thinking about. You can't tear down a country that is built on merit and hard work and dedication and determination and then try to rebuild it as a welfare state. You can't do that, because what will happen? The country will fracture. It will fracture in between those who want to work for what they want and those who want everybody to give them a handout. We all know what this leads to. We all know what this is called. It's literally called socialism. That's what they want. They want a society where people are rewarded for nothing. They want a society where people basically just are slaves, really, because everyone's going to have to work to keep the system going. But no one's going to get paid because the money is going to always be redirected into some government program. Is that really what you want? Is that the type of society you want to live in? Like, really think about it. Really think about it. When she brought up the scratch paper remark, in case for those of you who don't know, this refers to her dissent in the case of SEC versus Jarkisi, where she signaled a sharp departure from the majority's view on administrative power, essentially characterizing their constitutional interpretations as secondary or unrefined or unimportant. This right here, her thinking, stems from a 2022 appointment process where the specific criteria for the nominations were defined by race and gender prior to the selection of the individual. Joe Biden told everyone, when I select the next Supreme Court justice, it's going to be a woman and she's going to be black. Now imagine if you're a white woman, white man, Asian man, Asian woman, Hispanic woman, Hispanic man. Imagine how you were disappointed knowing that before you even got a chance to interview for the job, you are already discriminated against. If any company on earth did that, they would literally be sued. They would literally be sued. People would say, that is discrimination. You're not hiring based on merit, and you've already decided that you're going to hire somebody black or white or blue or green or whatever. Why is our country violating laws that businesses all over America are held to? If the owner of Chick-fil-A said, the next 10,000 people we hire, they all going to be white with blonde hair and blue eyes, I think African Americans would have a lot of issues with that. I think Asians and Hispanic Americans would have a lot of issues with that. So why did Joe Biden feel like that was okay? Well, as a politician, we know he was simply just pandering. He was just simply trying to prepare for his next campaign. Oh, I'm going to get the black vote by putting another black Supreme Court justice. I'm going to secure the female vote and the black vote. We know what he was doing, right? But why were people okay with that? Why were people like, yeah, we'll take an inferior intellect just for symbolism? So it could look like we're making progress, the illusion of progress, right? That's the problem. That's the whole problem. These people are, in many ways, it reflects the black community, right? Because in the black community, as a black man, one of the things I know that we emphasize, we love making something look like something. More so than making it actually be what we want it to look like. You see people in our community wearing thousands of dollars worth of clothing. If it's not a knockoff, right? If it's not a knockoff, we'll throw on some $2,000 shoes and won't even have a place to stay. People will be couch surfing with $5,000, $10,000 worth of clothes in backpacks and duffel bags, carrying it all over the city with them because they want it to look like something that it's not. They want people to think that they are something that they are not, right? And guess what? So is it any surprise that when it's time for African Americans to choose leadership, we literally are okay with choosing leadership that does the exact same thing? We're focused on looks more than we're focused on substance. And that's why I love Justice Clarence Thomas. Because that guy is like, look, you're not going to sit in here and erode the Constitution. We're not going to sit up here and tear down everything this country was built upon just so the Supreme Court could look a certain way. That's what these people are doing. These people would destroy their own country in the name of optics, right? My daughter is a volleyball player, and she's a little bit of a shorty for her position, right? And in volleyball, we're in California, so it's like tall white girls, blonde hair, beach babe type chicks, right? And I couldn't tell you how many teams we went up against where it was like, dude, all these chicks are like 6 feet. They all got the blonde hair, tall, you know what I'm saying? They look like they're gonna crush us, right? They look the part. And then we go in and whoop those teams straight sets. They don't even stand a chance. And I always say to myself, I bet there were people who tried out for that team who were better options than that team that they fielded. But they were probably so caught up on the looks, the optics. They didn't even care. They just cut all those people and picked the girls who they felt looked the part. It happens in indoor volleyball. It happens in beach volleyball. And it's really happening in America. Everyone cares more about the way things look than those things actually being something of substance. It's really crazy and it's very disturbing, right? You know that it's all about the optics when you see DEI hirings like Ketanji Brown Jackson. I don't think I've ever heard that woman make a coherent statement. If you have, let me know what that statement was. I don't think she has ever made a statement that I actually understand. But she wasn't put there to be brilliant, right? She wasn't put there to be brilliant. She was put there to present a certain image. Oh, look, the first black woman to ever sit on the Supreme Court. But me personally, I'm like, look, more than I care about a black woman sitting on the Supreme Court, I care more about whether or not she aligns with the principles that this country was founded on. I care more about whether she's going to destroy our country with bad rulings in 10 or 20 years once Clarence Thomas and these other people die off. People really don't understand. People really don't understand. You get the wrong set of Supreme Court justices, we're done. We're screwed. See, because as much as people may hate the conservatives that dominate the Supreme Court, our country is still here. Our country is still prosperous. Our country is still thriving. And our country is still strong. Could you imagine if you put a bunch of Ketanji Brown Jacksons on the Supreme Court? She would literally dismantle the Constitution. They would literally dismantle the Constitution. And if you say, oh, no, she wouldn't, well, that's what she's trying to do right now. That's literally what she's trying to do right now. But see, she's in the minority. You understand? She's in the minority right now. And she's biding her time. There's a reason why Biden made sure he picked someone so young. Because they're hoping, if they don't get to pack the courts, they're hoping to run the table with Democrat presidents who will be able to appoint Supreme Court justices and put, if they can, 8 other liberal justices up there, right? It's a weird situation, but nobody can tell me. I promise you, I ask people all the time, can you please tell me what progressivism is doing for anyone? They can never tell you. They can never tell you. How is progressivism benefiting your life right now? Because in my opinion, all progressivism is doing is stealing from you, robbing you of all the things that all the benefits that you enjoy as an American in an attempt to give them to somebody else in the name of fake toxic altruism. How do you benefit? No one with a 9-to-5 job could tell you how progressivism and DEI is benefiting them. All they know is that they want to support it. They don't know why they want to support it, but they want to support it. Right? They don't know why. But we, as Black Americans, we experience this every day in our community, where you have the females within our community challenging the males within our community, basically in an effort to move our community more towards progressivism. And the Black community has ultimately shifted in a major way towards progressive values. But when we look at progressive values, are they even values at all? Are they even values at all? Our kids is messed up on drugs, running around with guns, hyper emotional, killing each other, right? Whole time mom out there, that's my baby. Don't tell my baby nothing. The daddy come in, try to talk some sense into the kid. Oh, you abusive, you abusing them, you know, this type of nonsense. And it's like, we understand how that makes you feel good and powerful in the moment, but how is that working out for you in the long run? No one would accuse the Black community of getting safer. No one would. No one would accuse the Black community of getting richer or more livable. It gets so bad that as soon as a Black person gets some money, they have to run away. They have to go live somewhere else. Why? Because it's totally unsustainable. To live in this way is like anti-life. It only promotes destruction and violence. And if you look on the news, you look in the mainstream media, what do you see? Constant reports of Black people, Black children acting wild as hell, out of control. Nobody can get control of them, right? But why is it? It's because all of the principles and the values that we want shared in this country, or that we want shared in the Black community, they've been totally eroded. They've been totally eroded. Black people in general have no respect for the law. They have no respect for established norms or what is it called? Boundaries. None. You can tell that just by the crazy ass teen takeovers that we've been seeing. Go back 20 years. You never saw kids doing this shit. But if you talk to a liberal, they've been doing that. Bro, I've been alive for 40 years. When were kids doing that? When were kids descending into downtown, robbing people, shooting people, killing people? That haven't been happening in large mobs.
Monday, March 30th, where you see several teenagers running, walking on cars, stomping on them, reportedly called there. That was on Monday, March 30th, where you see several teenagers running, walking on cars, stomping on them, reportedly causing some property damage in the area here. And Mayor Brandon Johnson talking about the potential for that teen takeover here tonight, urging parents not to let their kids attend because he said it gets dangerous. It can potentially really get out of hand, as we've been reporting here on Fox Chicago here. And some on city council are trying to get to the bottom of everything, trying to get social media companies to become partners and to crack down on some of these teen takeovers that we've been talking about here. But in the meantime, some parents decided they wanted to gather here now to kind of take control of everything, take their neighborhoods back, and tell teenagers none of this is going to be tolerated.
Back in the day, we said it takes a village. Same thing now. Back in the day, there was repercussions and consequences. Right now, there isn't. We need to show them that, hey, this is not cool. You want to have fun? Go to the park. Go to the movie. You know, take your girl out to dinner. You don't need to be trashing people's property or jumping on cars and everything.
Yeah, but the same guy will run and go vote for the Democrat who's screaming defund the police. The same guy will celebrate when the DEI hire Ketanji Brown Jackson gets selected and appointed to the Supreme Court. See, we say we want one thing in the black community, but our actions say something else. We only care because they're damaging our property. Now, if they were down the street doing it, damaging somebody else's property, they wouldn't give a damn. But this is what these people want, guys. This is what these people want. They want chaos. Because if they make your life filled with chaos to the point where you don't feel safe, you will be ready and willing to relinquish your autonomy to these people in the name of them protecting you. See, that's really the end game here. You think, when it's all said and done, I'm going to have all types of freedom and I'm going to be able to do it. No, you're not. When it's all said and done, it's going to get so bad that you're going to do exactly what those black people did back in the 90s. Around the time of the 92 and the 94 crime bill, where you hand over power to the government to incorporate draconian punishment for criminals because you are so scared that you can't even leave your house. This is what people like Ketanji Brown Jackson want. That's what she's pushing for. They want to go back to the days of the two-tier justice system. She talks about her colleagues so bad. Oh, how do you expect us to trust the law and yada, yada, yada? Look, bro, we trust the law. We trust the law a lot more than we trust these kids who are literally picking on other kids and then killing them. This was a scene that took place in New York where a little boy was getting bullied and it wasn't enough to just bully the kid and hit him in the face. Another kid actually shot him point blank. And you know what the black people in the comments were saying? Well, he was trying to pistol whip him. He didn't shoot him on purpose. They're just babies. What? Hit him in the face. He's literally standing there like, why are you guys bothering me? He's not being aggressive. He's not attacking anyone. He's literally standing there like, why are you guys bothering me? The kid slaps him, and you're going to see right here when the other kid shoots him. Right there. Can we get back? Maybe you guys can. Right there. This is what these people want. This is what these people want. This is what they think. Defund the police. So there's no one around to break this type of shit up when it's taking place. Right? Oh, release the violent criminals. No cash bail. So they can go out and do the same thing again a couple more times until their court date. This is what I want you guys to look at when you think about these progressive liberal policies. When you think about what Ketanji Brown Jackson said about the opinions of her colleagues. She's all on board with this shit. Her, Karen Bass, mayor of LA, Nina Turner, Kamala Harris, the list goes on. This is what they're about. 100% Turney Tyke. Boy died over the most low stakes shit. The boy died because he was getting picked on. Because he wasn't a thug. Because he didn't want to be violent. Maybe he just wanted to go to school to get an education. And it cost him his life. Can you imagine that? How can somebody have the audacity to say, defund the police? We live in a black community where they cheer for killers and scream to release them. Give us Barabbas is what we say in the black community. Yeah, it's right. It's sad, Jumps. It's sad as hell. This boy is dead because he refused to be what the people around him were. Dead. They hit him in the face and he's standing there like, yo, why are you guys hitting me? Why are you guys doing that? This is what freedom is to the this is what freedom. And he's just holding his face after he gets hit. So you know he never thought, he thought if I don't fight back, I'll have a better chance to survive. He was wrong. He was wrong. This is what freedom is to these people, y'all. Freedom to act like animals. That's all they care about. Freedom to destroy, not to build anything, not to create anything. Freedom to destroy and bully everybody while simultaneously claiming that they've been bullied. I put a post on Facebook today that's going a little crazy. I said black folks claim to be stronger and better than everybody else while simultaneously claiming, talking about how much help we ain't getting from everybody. Black folks holler, we want freedom, we want liberation. But look at what you're doing with the little bit of freedom that you got. What do you want freedom to do? Kill? Because these are kids who got a lot of freedom. Their parents didn't say, soon as you get out of school, bring your ass home and do your homework. Why are you pulling a gun on some, like, you know they're cowards because this boy ain't even fighting back and they're pulling a gun on him. Why are you pulling a gun on a kid who's not even fighting you back? And then when they bring back the 3 strikes and the stop and frisk, y'all gonna say, stop and frisk is racist. No, bro, it's not. Stop and frisk is necessary because look who you got running around. Lil Pookie and Ray Ray armed at a damn high school. I don't know, when are they gonna start putting the metal detectors in front of the schools? But there's probably some Democrat, oh no, we don't want the kids to feel like criminals. No, we want the criminals to feel like criminals and not come into school with a gun. Shot them and killed them. No, being a gang member ain't got nothing to do with doing no stupid shit like this. See, that's the whole issue. See, black people, what we do, and I know this person is black, because what we do as black people, we pretend like we don't understand nuance until it benefits us, or at least until we think it benefits us. What gang member have you seen doing some shit like this? I don't know what gangs y'all from. When I was in a gang, we didn't even have time to mess with somebody who wasn't even in a gang. We was going after other gang members. In my city, particularly Hispanics. We didn't have no time sitting up bullying some kid who broker who was broker than us. This kid is literally like, why are you guys beating me up? He's not aggressive at all. And I damn sure ain't pulling my gun out on some kid who ain't even fighting back. This is just straight up lawlessness. And let me tell you something. When you say, oh, since you was a gang member, yeah, but when I was in a gang, you went to jail for doing shit like this. You went to jail for getting caught with drugs on you. Being in public high and drunk. That don't even apply no more. That shit don't even apply no more. So you can't even compare back then to now. They don't even enforce law. There was no one screaming, defund the police when I was a gang member. But now they scream it proudly. Defund the police, justice for George Floyd. Now, why aren't black people marching in the streets about this boy right here? That's the show I should have done. Why aren't black people in the streets marching, screaming for justice over this boy right here who got murdered on his way home from school after getting bullied? If it was a cop who would have shot that boy, they would have been all in the street. Why aren't the No Kings protesters getting ready to do a rally for him? A real victim of a senseless crime. Why aren't they doing that? Because they don't care. It ain't about what's right. It ain't about justice. It's about whatever their agenda is. That's all it's about. That's all it's ever been about. Well, who can we use? What tragedy can we use to further our agenda? That's my question. That's what they're talking about. What tragedy can we use to further our agenda? I care more about this boy dying than I give a damn about George Floyd. But nobody wants to go march for this boy. Nobody wants to fight to make sure what happened to this boy don't happen to nobody else. And if you think about it, that's where the hypocrisy really lies. In our community, all life is not sacred. Only the lives that can be politicized and weaponized against the system. That's it. Those are the only lives that matter. If it was up to Letitia James, or what's that other boy name? The prosecutor, Alvin Bragg. Those kids will be out the same damn day. They'll be out on cashless bail. Well, we don't want them to miss no school. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. But this is the world we live in. And we only have a few barriers standing in between us, and total chaos. And that's what Clarence Thomas was warning about. That's what Clarence Thomas was warning us against when he spoke against progressivism. He literally was like, look, these people are trying to erode our laws. They're trying to create a lawless society where there's no rules and everybody is just out here operating in chaos. And they're telling you, no, we ain't. We just want peace and justice. They're liars. They're 100% dishonest liars. They want you to let your guard down. They want you to trust them with the wheel. And as soon as they get the wheel, they're going to freaking drive you right off the side of a cliff. Because they hate this country. And they hate the people who make up this country. Because they think you're standing in their way. They think that you're the thing standing in between them and total control. They'll hand this country over to radical Islamist terrorists. They'll hand this country over to radicalized jihadists. They don't care. They don't care. Because they've gotten to the point where they have a suicidal mindset. I hate people who don't agree with me so much, I'm willing to destroy myself just to destroy them. They're literally like kamikaze pilots in World War II. They will destroy us all just to destroy the system that they believe is victimizing them. And nowhere does this exist more prevalently than in the black community. I remember this guy was like, oh, I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of marching. You can't march. He was literally telling a young kid to go like sacrifice himself to get killed, to get slaughtered. Why? Because when you continuously tell somebody they're a victim and there's nothing they can do about it, eventually they give up. And then they resort to trying to do the only thing that they can do, which is to delete themselves. They exercise the one form of control that they actually have. And you might look at it like that makes no sense. But to them, it makes perfect sense. Because they've been trained and brainwashed and reprogrammed never to think things through. That's the way it is. I'm going to play this Clarence Thomas speech because I think it's important for everyone to listen to it. I'll make some commentary on it, but I don't want to talk too much through it because I want you guys to get the gist of what he's trying to say. Because I know y'all didn't go watch it.
Thank you. Well, I think I'll quit while I'm ahead. Thank you all very much. President Davis, Provost Bowden, Dean Dyer, faculty, students, and honored guests. I thank each of you for being here, and I thank the school and the officials here for the invitation to visit the University of Texas at Austin. My wife, Virginia, and I are pleased to be here to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. If my memory serves me, this is only my second visit.
So if it's the 250th year of the Declaration of Independence, why don't you hear any liberals celebrating that? We all live in this country. They lie and tell you, oh, we're patriots too. Why is it that every moment where we get to be proud of the United States, the country where we live, they never want to celebrate it? That should tell you right there that there's something seriously wrong in this situation.
The University of Texas, and this is the first visit at the invitation of the university. But I have hired and worked with a number of outstanding young people associated with this university. My first was now Chief Judge Greg Maggs of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Services, who was a fairly new faculty member at the law school when I became a member of the court. He took a leave of absence to help me as a law clerk during the second half of my first term. My first UT graduate to serve as a law clerk was Greg Coleman 3 decades ago. Greg went on to become the first solicitor of the state of Texas. He was simply outstanding, as was his son, Reed, who also was a graduate of the law school here and who was also equally outstanding. Greg's widow and our very dear friend, Stephanie, is with us today. Stephanie, thank you. And thanks for being such a good friend. And both Greg and his son, Reed, clerked for my dear friend, Judge Edith Jones, also a graduate of UT Law School. I greatly admire Judge Jones. She is one of my heroes, and I admire her as a person and as a jurist. And I'm grateful that she can be here today. A number of my former clerks are also here. I can't tell you which ones, so let me ask them to stand to be recognized. So in my chambers, UT and UT Law School are very well represented. I hope, I'm having a little trouble with this, getting used to the podium, sorry about that.
We're not going to sit through all this fanfare, right? But we're going to go to the parts where this guy talks about the Declaration of Independence. And one of the things I like is how he talks about the Declaration of Independence and how it was really the foundation of equality in this country. A lot of people forget that we got to a point of being pretty damn equal in this country without wokeism. A lot of people forget that. They're like, oh no, we need to be woke. We need to go in the street and march with blue hair and, you know, all kinds of crazy theatrics. I'm sitting there thinking, dude, this country did pretty good when it came to equality, without all the extreme rhetoric and the extreme ideologies.
Taught that we are inherently equal, that equality came from God, and that it could not be diminished by man. We were made in the image and likeness of God. That proposition was not debatable and was beyond the power of man to alter. Others with power and animus could treat us as unequal, but they lacked the divine power to make us so. Somehow, without formal education, the older people knew that these God-given or natural rights preceded and transcended governmental power or authority.
See, I like that. I like how he brings up the fact that a lot of the people who agreed with the Declaration of Independence and basically lived by it, they weren't even educated. Now in our world, we're told that someone has to go to Harvard or some fancy college for them to understand the inner workings of race relations, to understand what equality truly is. We literally went from studying the Declaration of Independence, trying to understand how these people could have been so progressive at that time in their thinking, coming from the backgrounds they came from. Now we're trying to discredit them. They didn't really know what the hell they was talking about, but they really did. They really did. Alan Altman, where have I been living? I don't understand. Like, I look at these people talking in the comments and I'm just like, bro, just come up. I'll give you $100 if you can tell me what racism or any of that is doing to stop you from doing anything you want to do. Nothing can stop you from doing what you want to do. All you have to do is want to do it. And that is the very meaning of equality, where no one is trying to inhibit you. You're free to do whatever you want. Sometimes I think we're too free in this country.
We lived in a segregated world with palpable discrimination, and the governments nearest to you enforced laws and customs that promoted unequal treatment. It was obvious that your rights or your dignity did not come from those governments, but rather from God. Though not a literate man, my grandfather often spoke of our rights and obligations coming from God, not from architects of segregation and discrimination. Men were not angels. They were subject to the constraints of antecedent rights, and we were not subject to those men, even as we were subjected to their whims. We knew that.
Now look, we know, Chad, you're missing the whole point. He's literally explaining why what you're saying doesn't make sense. Chad says, everyone is equal in the eyes of God, exclaimed the slave owner in 1776. The cognitive dissonance has been real for 100 years. No, because you're under the authority of God. Those men don't determine you to be equal or not equal. They may have the ability to coerce you or force you to work against your will because they have guns and you don't. But ultimately, they could beat you to death. But they will never be able to determine you to be less than they are. That's the point of the Declaration of Independence. That's the point of it. Even if you're enslaved, that doesn't mean the guy enslaving you is better than you or somehow he's more human than you. If you go talk to the police and they got a gun and a badge, does that make them better than you? They still can enforce the law on you and arrest you if they want to. Hell, they could even shoot you. But when you teach a person that no one's better than you, no one is superior to you, that empowers that person and enables them to do all types of things they never thought they could do. See, this transcends just interpersonal human interaction. And that's the part you're missing. That's the part you're missing. They're saying, like, we acknowledge we have slaves. But at the end of the day, this slave has as much ability to free himself as I do to enslave him, because we are created equal. All men are created equal, but does that mean that a boxer is gonna win every boxing match, or that every boxing match is gonna be a draw? No. Even though we're equal, one person is gonna win. But because we're equal, the other person, if they go back to the training camp and they work hard enough and make the necessary adjustments, they could come back the next fight and be victorious. Because all men are created equal. Do you understand? That's what that means. That ain't got nothing to do with someone being enslaved or not.
Life, liberty, and property were sacrosanct. Those truths were self-evident to the adults in our lives and were taught to us as indelible, undeniable truths. Those around us would endure or could endure.
I'll give you a perfect example. Slave has as much ability to free himself as do the people who enslaved him. Got it. There's a reason why Native Americans weren't really used primarily as slaves, even though there were more of them in North America than black people. One was they would attempt to run away to the point where you just have to kill them. Two, they weren't built like we were, so they couldn't take a lot of the harsh realities of slavery, right? A lot of Indians, because the way their culture is, they weren't really acclimated to like working all damn day into the night in the heat on very little food, very little water, right? We were used to that because we was up under that African sun all the time, so our bodies were conditioned for that type of thing already, right? The same reason they didn't use them as slaves primarily is the same reason you don't see no Native Americans running the 100 or the 200 or the mile or the 800 meters in the Olympics. Their bodies are not built for endurance like that. Our bodies are built. Our genetic makeup is a little bit more accommodating for that type of thing. But guess what? They had a position where they were like, F that. You basically got to kill us before we gonna work and be enslaved out here for you. Black people, because many of our people, they came over on slave ships and stuff like that. They were beaten, abused on the way over. It broke a lot of their spirit. Plus, they were in a unfamiliar territory. So even if they ran away, they were like, okay, if I run away, I'm gonna just be out in the woods not knowing shit. It's wolves, bears, and shit out there at the time. There were things that contributed or attributed to our remaining enslaved that go beyond just, oh, the white man is more stronger or more powerful and smarter than you. There was more to that. But at the end of the day, you could just say, F it, kill me. You can't. There were those of us who jumped over the side of the slave ship rather than remain enslaved. And some people would say, hey, that's you claiming your freedom. F it. I'd rather die. And I think that's what the Declaration of Independence hints at. Because if you look at the white man who fought England right, or fought the king, they were basically like, give me liberty or give me death. And that's what, in my opinion, they understood that a lot of the black folks didn't understand. They were willing to die in the name of freedom. A lot of us were not. We were like, we're just going to capitulate because we want to live. And there's nothing wrong with that, but those white guys definitely understood that.
The insults of segregation with dignity, because they knew that in God's eyes, they were equal. All too often, there is an unfortunate tendency when discussing the Declaration to make these self-evident truths and first principles of government obscure. Intellectuals want you to believe that our founding principles are matters of esoteric philosophy or sophisticated debate. Even those who support them too often talk about them as if they were academic playthings.
100%,
They
Pat.
overcomplicate them, take the spirit out of them, and discuss them in a way that puts us to sleep. But the principles of the Declaration of Independence, as I encountered them, are a way of life. They are not an abstract theory that you only learn in college or law school, but the basic premises of our Constitution and government.
So, like, see, people just think of the Declaration of Independence like, oh, that's just something that the white founding fathers wrote. It ain't important. I'm a person who believes that this should be mandatory curriculum starting in like elementary school. I think every kid in America should be trained to understand the Declaration of Independence. I really believe that lack of understanding when it comes to the founding of this country, I believe that has led to a lot of the issues that we're looking at today. Because when you debate these liberal kids, they're dumb. They don't know anything about their country. How can you be proud of something that you know nothing about? That's the whole thing. How do you expect someone to be proud of something that they know little to nothing about? When you don't know a lot about something, it's easy to devalue that thing. And that's what we've done to our country. Most of these kids don't know how it was founded. They don't know who the first president is. They don't know, what it was like to fight in the Revolutionary War or the Civil War. So when someone comes in and says, oh, this sucks because can you believe they own slaves? Yeah, it's easy for them to just react emotionally and jump on that bandwagon. But what Clarence Thomas says at the 23rd minute is very timely. He basically says that the final line in the Declaration of Independence is really the most important line of the whole document. And I'll play that right now.
Principle of equality. We the people can never legitimately consent to the violation of our God-given equality. However, when I encounter the Declaration of Independence anew today,
listen to what he said. You can never truly consent to someone violating your God-given rights, right? So even if the government tells you, hey, we took a vote and all the crazy blue-haired liberal freaks decided that, you're going to have to work Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for no pay so that your paycheck can go to fund the new DEI Garden Cafe, right? And give everybody free food. Even if you were to say, okay, I'm okay with that, you really can't agree with that. You can never agree with that. You can never be enslaved again because you can never truly agree with someone exploiting you. That's the type of rhetoric you need to hear, which fortifies your mind and your heart when it comes to standing up for what's right. If every American had this mindset, a lot of this foolishness that we see would not even be going on. Because people will literally capitulate to things they don't agree with because they're afraid that the government I'm afraid they might throw me in jail or something like that. But you only fear that because you don't understand that the rights that have been bestowed upon you are bestowed upon you by God, not man. And no man can take them away from you, truly.
I am most struck by the final sentence. It can be easy to forget, 250 years later, the courage it took for those 56 men to sign the Declaration. Arguably, those men committed treason against the king, risking death at the hands of an empire far mightier than the newborn United States. They thus concluded with the memorable final sentence, and I quote, "And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." I will say it again. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Recently, I came across a definition of courage that is attributed to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. In essence, the signers of the Declaration were saying that they were willing to die for the principles they were asserting, the supreme act of courage. Those principles were more important than their fear. Nothing in the Declaration of Independence, I now realize, matters without that final sentence. Without that sentence, the rest of the Declaration is but mere words on parchment paper. Nice words, but nonetheless, just words. What changed the world was not the words, but the commitment and spirit of the people who were willing to labor, sacrifice, and even give their lives, what Lincoln at Gettysburg called the last full measure of devotion for the Declaration's principles. It is that devotion, it is that devotion to which we owe our rich inheritance. It was that devotion that sustained the Founding Fathers and the Continental Army as they fought and won the Revolutionary War, braved the winter at Valley Forge, crossed the Delaware, and defeated an army, many times their number and firepower, to win their freedom. It was that devotion that Nathan Hale expressed when, before being executed by the British, he reportedly said, "I only regret that I have but one life to give for this country." It was that devotion that Patrick Henry invoked when he stood before the Virginia Convention and asked, "Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery?"
Yeah, for black people it is. Yeah, so when you talk about things like divine providence, right? That's like the protection of God. That's why I know, like, if people say, like, oh, there's going to be a civil war in this country, da, 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 da. I know that the liberals and the crazies, they would never win that war. Because when you're godless, when all you do, when your entire ideology is built on tearing things down, how will you build anything when all you've programmed yourself to do for the past several decades is tear everything down? There will literally be mutiny. There will literally be infighting among them within the first day. They have no like constant belief or understanding to keep them united. Everything they believe is constantly shifting, right? The logic and understanding on it, the reasoning on it is constantly changing. How the hell can they line up to fight when they don't even know, okay, all the men on this side and all the women on this side? They're going to say, well, I am a woman. No, Jim, you a man. Whoa. Oh, the women don't have to fight. So all the dudes going to identify as women so they don't got to fight. It's just a fool's errand what these people are doing. They believe that they'll be able to run this country better than they think they'll be able to rebuild this country better than the way the founding fathers built it. And it's just not true. It's just asinine and ridiculous. Divine providence, the protection of God. Who protects these people? Look, if these people understood the concept of divine providence, you wouldn't have these people screaming, everyone wants to kill trans people every 5 minutes. They live in fear constantly because they don't believe in anything. They don't believe that there's something out there bigger than them that will protect them if they are actually in the right. And if their pursuit and their goal is righteous. They don't believe that. So they have to constantly attempt to change and manipulate the government and other people in the name of protection. All because of fear, right? All because of fear. It's ridiculous, but that's what they do. But Clarence Thomas in the speech, he actually talks about that. He gets at the progressivism, and he really gives it a strong rebuke. He really comes for them, so to speak, because he can't speak on it all the time, but here Clarence is like, I got time today, and he lets him know what it really is.
It's unclear whether these principles will endure. At the beginning of the 20th century, a new set of first principles of government was introduced into the American mainstream. The proponents of this new set of first principles, most prominent among them, the 28th President of our country, Woodrow Wilson, called it progressivism. Since Wilson's presidency, progressivism has made many inroads into our system of government and our way of life. It has coexisted uneasily with the principles of the Declaration. Because it is opposed to those principles, it is not possible for the two to coexist forever.
And people don't know, Woodrow Wilson was a racist, hardcore. He's the one who resegregated the military. He was a hardcore racist. So what people don't understand is that and this is where you learn, the whole progressive movement was founded by a racist. Think about that. The whole progressive movement was founded by a racist. You remember the Germans in Nazi Germany? Woodrow Wilson agreed with them. He was down with them. But they'll keep calling you a Nazi. Oh, you're a Nazi. Woodrow Wilson. That guy was a true racist, man. And he is the person who brought progressivism into American politics. Right? Oh, and guess what? He was a Democrat. He was a Democrat. I'm keeping it real. He was a Democrat. These people have never changed. They keep trying to tell you that they've changed. They are the same as they've always been. They've been trying to push this shit in and overthrow the government, from the beginning of time. Very racist. He's in the Racism Hall of Fame, for real. Democrat. Introduced progressivism into our government. But nobody wants to talk about the facts.
Progressivism was not native to America. Wilson and the progressives candidly admitted that they took it from Otto von Bismarck's Germany, whose state-centric society they admired. Progressives like Wilson argued that America needed to leave behind the principles of the founding and catch up with the more advanced and sophisticated system of relatively unimpeded state power, nearly perfected. He acknowledged that it was a foreign science, speaking very little of the language of English or American principle, which offers none but what are, to our minds, alien ideas. He thus described America, still stuck with its original system of government, as, quote, slow to see the superiority of the European system. Progressivism was the first mainstream American political movement, with the possible exception of the pro-slavery reactionaries on the eve of the Civil War, to openly oppose the principles of the Declaration. Progressives strove to undo the Declaration's commitment to equality and natural rights, both of which they denied were self-evident. To Wilson, the unalienable rights of the individual were, quote, a lot of nonsense. Wilson redefined liberty not as a natural right attendant antecedent to the government, but as, quote, the right of those who are governed to adjust government to their own needs and interests. In other words, liberty no longer preceded the government as a gift from God, but was to be enjoyed at the grace of the government. The government, as Wilson reconceived it, would be, quote, beneficent and indispensable. Progressives such as John Dewey attacked the framers for believing that their ideas were immutable truth, good for all times and places, when instead they were, according to him, historically conditioned and relevant only in their own time. Now Dewey and the progressives argued those ideas are to be displaced. Progressivism seeks to replace the basic premises of the Declaration of Independence, and hence our form of government. It holds that our rights and our dignities come not from God, but from government. It requires of the people a subservience and weakness incompatible with a constitution premised on the transcendent origin of our rights. You will not be surprised to learn that the progressives had a great deal of contempt for us, the American people. Before he entered politics, Wilson would describe the American people as, quote, selfish, ignorant, timid, stubborn, and foolish. He lamented that we do too much by vote and too little by expert rule. He proposed that the people be ruled by administrators who use them as tools. He once again aspired to be like Germany, where the people, he said admiringly, were docile and acquiescent. The century of progressivism did not go well. The European system that Wilson and the progressives scolded Americans for not adopting, which he called nearly perfect, led to the governments that caused the most awful century that the world has ever seen. Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, and Mao all were intertwined with the rise of progressivism, and all were opposed to the natural rights on which our declaration are based.
Yeah, so I could sit and just watch that whole thing in its entirety. But you have to understand, you don't know the roots of this stuff. A lot of people have no idea where this stuff comes from. You think these kids on college campuses and in high schools understand them when they're like, I'm a progressive? Do you think that they realize that this ideology is not new? They say progressive because they think that's something new. That's not new at all. There's nothing new under the sun. It's not new at all. But as long as, you know, the people who they're college professors and stuff can shine it up and make it appear like it's new, they'll buy into it. But progressivism is rooted in Nazism, fascism, and all the things that they claim to be fighting against. But this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't know your history. This is what happens when you don't study and you don't read. People like us, we're against this not because we don't like the people who are trying to implement it today. We're against it because we know that ultimately this crap don't work. It's been tried and it's been failed. Patrick Smith, facts. This speech needs to be widespread and played in all schools. They won't play it though. The people who are responsible for teaching our children, they are on board with progressivism. Because in reality, if you look at schools, teachers are nothing more than authoritarians who desire control. So why would they go for anything that doesn't give them more power? See, why would they go for something that takes away their power, teaches people to think for themselves? They're not gonna buy into that, and they're definitely not gonna teach your kids that. They're definitely not gonna teach your kids anything that's gonna water down or undermine their power. You understand? Let's get into this final part. This was a really good fucking speech. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Prospects, but in my view,
here's the last part. This is where he's telling you to be courageous. Stop being a little hoe.
Must find in ourselves that same level of courage that the signers of the Declaration had, so that we can do for our future what they did for theirs. Each of you will have opportunities to be courageous every day, whether your calling in life is as a day laborer, a stay-at-home mom, a small business owner, an educator, an office worker, a judge, or some other endeavor. It may mean speaking up in class tomorrow when someone around you expects you to live by lies. It may mean confronting today's fashionable bigotries, such as anti-Semitism. It may mean standing up for your religion when it is mocked and disparaged by a professor. It may mean not budging on your principles when it will entail losing friends or being ostracized. It may mean running for your school board when you see that they are teaching your children to hate your values and our country. It may mean turning down a job offer that requires you to make moral or ethical compromises. One thing I do know to be true. It will mean waking up every day with the resolve to withstand unfair criticism and attacks. These are the choices that we will confront, that will confront you, and you must decide whether to respond with timidity or with courage, as the signers of the Declaration did. It will, of course, not be easy. It never is. But if, like me, you need a greater source of strength than yourselves, you will need to rely on your faith to guide and to sustain you through it all. You will disappoint people you thought were friends and endure personal attacks, as well as attacks on those you care about. But if you stand, you will find that courage, like cowardice, can be habit-forming, and it will become a part of your life and a part of who you are. And I may dare say it is liberating. You will also be a living example for others to emulate. So by all means, celebrate the Declaration of Independence. It is the most important act of American history, the foundation of our Constitution, and as Lincoln said, the sheet anchor of our republic. But I implore you to celebrate it by standing up for it, by defending it, and by recommitting yourselves to living up to its ideals. Channel the courage of the men who faced down a king and signed it, or a president who led the nation in a civil war, rather than permit this House to be divided by the great contradiction of slavery. Take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure, and with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, let us mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you, and may God continue to bless our country.
That was a great speech, and I want you guys to pay attention to the fact that he really talked about faith a lot. This is why you see such an attack on religion, right? Because they understand that a faith in something that's greater than oneself is one of the things that it is hardest to kill, right? A lot of the reason why progressivism and these crazy ideas never were able to gain a foothold in America was because people's faith. People will read the Bible and say, look, man, I can't do that thing you're saying because the Bible, the God that I put faith in, says that it's wrong. So if you notice, like over the past 50 or some odd years, longer than that, really, they've been trying to separate you from your faith. They've been trying to make you feel like, oh, having faith is unimportant. Well, once you give up your faith, they got you. Once you give up your faith, they can come in and it's easier to break you, right? To destroy your resolve. So I would say, hell, put faith in something. Well, even if it's just like the balance of the universe, put faith in something other than just your own ability, and you'll beat these people every time. They're godless people. That's why their mind is so easily manipulated. Like, one thing about these progressives, bro, they never push back. They never push back against the people like impressing things upon them, right? They never push back. You could be like, yo, I'm a lesbian. I'm attracted to females, right? You might not think that it's okay for a man to go in the bathroom with a little girl. But do you think most of the people in that group will say that? No, they'll just agree because they feel like they have to, because that's a part of the identity or ideological identity that they've adopted, right? I remember it was years ago, my brother dated this girl. She was a little white girl. And, you know, they used to date and mess around and stuff. And he would always be like, how come you don't ever let me meet none of your friends, you know, whatever. And she was like, oh, because I'm a lesbian. And if my friends found out that I was dating you, oh my God, they would disown me. They wouldn't want to hang around me. They wouldn't want to be around me. Man, she was big on this, like that my brother could never meet her friends, even hell, her family members damn near, which he met some of them. But she was big on this guy, like basically never meeting her friends because she didn't want them to disown her because they were all supposed to be lesbians, right? And she was breaking the code. She was sneak digging. And in that moment, I realized the majority of what these people do is actually dictated to them by whether or not it will impact their being accepted by the horde that I like to call it. These people are obsessed with what other people think about them. They're obsessed with that. And it's like, didn't we learn this in like elementary school? Like, who cares what other people think about you? Just be yourself. They fight the government to pass legislation so that they can be who they want to be. That's what they claim. But it's fake because it's induced by this idea that they can't be who they want to be because that is perpetuated by their social group. I'm me, whatever I want to do. If I want to walk outside butt ass naked, I can do that. Damn what you think, right? These people will, what other people think is life or death for them. That's why they fight so hard to try to bend the government to their will, to force the government to like capitulate to their demands. They're dealing with extreme psychosis and insecurities. And they want the government set up in a way to where those insecurities won't be stoked. They won't be aggravated. They won't be disturbed, right? I don't like the way I look, so we're going to pass a law to ban all mirrors type shit. It's a sickness. It's a sickness. And once you realize that, the better off you'll be. You won't play along anymore. See me, I don't play along. You say whatever you want to do whatever you want to do. I don't play kid games. And I know that's what this is. A bunch of adults who never grew up. Just ignorant. But 100% your boy Roy. Clarence Thomas is a true patriot. No one talks about the government. See, here, look. Crowbar, missing the point. The government doesn't care about you. It does nothing for your benefit. I don't give a shit about you. So what does that mean? It don't mean that. Is that going to hurt your ability to feed your family? I don't care about you. But if I work in a grocery store and you come through the line and I'm a cashier, I'm going to ring up your groceries, take your money, give you back your change, say, thank you so much, Crowbar. Have a wonderful day. And you're going to send you moving, right? Why do people have this obsession with someone caring about them? People don't have to care about you to do right by you. Go watch the movie Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis, God damn it. It ain't about care. It's about whether or not they're doing right by you. That's what it's about. What up, Max Ray? That's what it's all about. Guys, we got a $5 challenge. Y'all gonna help your boy meet this $5 challenge? $5 super chats. You can do it via Cash App, PayPal, pinned to the top of the stream, or you can hit that little super chat button at the bottom right-hand corner. We got to support the boring stuff because the boring stuff is most powerful. I didn't even do this like a show to entertain. I more or less did this like a lesson. So, because I was going to sit through and watch the Clarence Thomas speech, and I wanted to just give you guys an opportunity to do it with me. And about 50 of us watched it. So that's 50 of us who are stronger and more fortified in our understanding of what this country is and what it isn't and what it was meant to be. So that's the army getting a little bit stronger. But if you are in a position to do so, please help us with the contribution goal, $5 super chats. That will help us reach our goal. But also you can contribute via Cash App or PayPal, and that counts towards the $5 contributions. Thank you so much in advance. But yeah, it ain't about somebody caring about you. I don't know why we get caught up on that mess. It ain't about caring. I don't know you to love you or like care about you that much, but I will do right by you. I won't do anything that I believe will hurt you, for my own personal gain. That's the difference. You don't have to even know a person exists to do right by them. You're not going to go next door and set the apartment building on fire because you know there's people living in there. You don't know them. Whether or not you know them doesn't impact whether or not you're going to set the building on fire. You're not going to set the building on fire because you know that's not the right thing to do. And you don't know them, but setting their building on fire will impact them in a negative way. That's all it's about. They don't got to like you and they ain't got to love you. But are they doing right by you? That is the most important. That's the key right there. Major keys, right? The Two Lying Bastards show of Uncle Fudd. What does that mean? Agus Odin prison. Oh, this guy's from Norway. Agus Odin. This guy's he worships Odin. He writes letters on paper and puts them on the ground and prays to him. I used to have a friend from Norway, and he would do that. He would go like in the room, and he would write on these papers and lay it on the ground. Bow down and start praying to Odin, the All-Father, or whatever. Yeah, I know about that stuff. But yeah, guys, it ain't about being liked. It ain't about being loved. Are you doing right by me? That's all that matters. But guys, listen, we'll be back tomorrow. We will be back tomorrow, I think. My daughter has a tournament, so I don't know. But most likely we will be back tomorrow. I'm going to prepare some videos for y'all tonight to release them tomorrow, and we're going to be all good. Thank y'all so much for watching this. I appreciate everything you do for me and this channel. Till the next time, take care of yourselves. But most importantly, please take care of each other.